good evening to you all. Hope you are well and healthy. And please just let me know if you can hear me well, so I know all is okay. Okay, I believe that you can hear me. I am your host, and again, we are here today to discuss a tough subject for sure. But before we get to that, I'd like to let you know that we are here almost every week so that you can ask your questions and seek some advice from the best doctors in the field, but also to get support and much needed knowledge on the IVF. Okay, so remember that you can find all of our webinars, previous webinars, but also the future webinars on our website, eggdonationfriends.com/IVF-webinars. And remember that if it weren't for our partners, IVF webinars wouldn't take place. So in such case, let me remind you about them. Okay, so our partners are National Fertility Society, Fertility Clinics Abroad, and Donor Conception Network. And well, now the most important part, okay? Let me introduce you to our very special guest tonight. You can already see her, I believe, right? And with us today is Sarah Banks. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you feeling today?
I'm good, thank you. I hope everybody's well. I know it's sort of a bit of a weird time across the world, but I hope everybody's well.
That's true. That is true. So I hope you are all healthy and have time for this special event with us today as well. And let me just tell you that Sarah is a fertility coach and mentor. So she has been supporting patients throughout many years already, and she is here also today to support you, but also provide you with some tips on how to handle this tough topic, which is and perhaps we'll be able to answer what to do if your IVF fails, and of course how you can handle it. Okay, so Sarah, of course, will start with her presentation, which will take 25 to 30 minutes, and then it will be your time. You will have a chance to ask your own questions, and of course Sarah will answer them one by one. Okay, and one more thing, this is a live event and it is being recorded, so you will have a chance to see it again tomorrow on our website. It will be available. And well, I guess this is it from me, at least from now. And we can begin, I believe. Sarah, are you ready to do
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start with the presentation right now. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just to quickly explain who I am before I go into it, just to kind of give you some background. I went through my own infertility journey. So we had 6 years of trying. We had 2 cycles of IVF, one of which didn't work the first time. Second time, thankfully, our second cycle did work. So I've been through my own infertility and IVF journey, which is why I then retrained to be a coach and mentor, because I wanted to support people who were going through the same as I'd been through. I now run support groups as well. So I run face-to-face and online groups. So the information I'm sharing today is from my own experience and from speaking to lots of people I support in my support groups and through my coaching experience as well. So just to give you a bit of background information, please do ask any questions you have as we're going, well, at the end. If you've got anything you want to ask me, please do. Okay, so I wanted to talk about questions to ask after a failed cycle. So I understand the failed IVF cycle is devastating, and that can be at any point of the cycle as well. So it doesn't have to just be the negative results if you've been through a full cycle. It can be if your cycle gets cancelled partway through, at any point, it's devastating once you've started your treatment cycle. And coping after that failed transfer is like grieving for a loss. There's a loss of hope, a loss of the future life that you'd planned out. I'd certainly planned all mine out from my first transfer, that all my dates worked out. So I'd obviously be pregnant by a certain date. It's a loss of the embryo that you had as well. And you pin all your hopes on it working, so that when it doesn't, you don't know what to do next. It can really leave you feeling like it won't work for you. And I know I'd felt like IVF was my plan B. And when it didn't work, I was really shocked. And suddenly I didn't really know what to do with myself. And that's why I wanted to do this webinar, to give you some advice on coping immediately after a failed cycle, but also thinking about the future, about what you do next. Quite often when something hasn't worked, we look for the reasons why, because we feel like it'll help us cope, it'll help us process it. But we also feel like it can, if we have answers to our questions, we can do something different next time. I also felt that after my failed cycle, I felt really alone, because you've been at the clinic so much in the run up to it. And even when you're not at the clinic in the 2-week wait, you've got that hope, there's still contact with the clinic, and you still feel very involved in it. And after I'd got the negative result, I very much felt alone. And I kind of described it as falling off a cliff into a black hole, because all contact stops with the clinic until your review appointment. So it's often a time when people feel very lonely as well. And as I say, it can leave you with lots of questions about why it didn't work, what I could have done differently. And you look at, when you start again, what could you do differently next time? Unfortunately, the assisted conception units are very busy, and you can't always get your follow-up appointment early on. I know in a lot of places it's 6 to 8 weeks, which can seem quite a long time between having that result and finding out what happened, what you can do next, getting started again. As I say, if we get an answer to it, we feel like we could do something differently next time. So if we know it failed for a certain reason, we feel like, well, next time we can do something different, and it gives us a better chance of it succeeding next time. On the medical side, there may be changes that can be made. A lot of consultants I speak to say that IVF is exploratory and investigatory treatment. So the more times you have it, the more they learn, which none of us want to. All of us want it to work first time. None of us want it to work after, or not work the first time, just so that they can learn more. But it is the best way of gauging your fertility, what works for you, how you stimulate. So every cycle that you have, they do learn more to be able to help you the next time, which is good. So there are lots of questions that you can ask yourself and medical professionals to help you move forward. So I'm going to move on to the questions in a minute, but first I wanted to talk through a few ways to cope immediately after your negative result, or as I say, if the cycle has been cancelled earlier on, before you've even got to a pregnancy test point of view. So I wanted to talk through some of the ways to cope, because it's a really difficult time, and a lot of people I speak to say it is the hardest point of their cycle. So firstly, allow yourself time to grieve. It is okay to feel sad. It's perfectly normal. Don't fight it. Don't feel like you're being silly or that you shouldn't be grieving for it. I think when you tell people who haven't been through it, they don't always understand why it's so upsetting for you, but it's perfectly normal to feel like that. So do take that time out to grieve. What I would say is, if it is going on for an extended amount of time, or you are really struggling emotionally afterwards, please do seek additional support. There's fertility counsellors in most clinics who are there to support you. They fully understand what it's like, and they're there to support you through that. So I would say to access them if you are really struggling. Take care of yourself. So take time out to do something to look after yourself emotionally and physically. So do things that will help you relax and feel nice, things that help you recharge your batteries. It can be very intense going through IVF. In fact, it usually is very intense going through IVF. Take that time out where you're not injecting yourself, you've not got medication, to do things that help you recharge your batteries, ready for whatever you decide to do next. It's just loading. Okay, so take some time out with your partner. As I say, it can be intense on you and also your partner while you're going through treatment. So take some time out together to talk about how you're both feeling about it, about the results, what you want to do next, and use the time to connect and support each other. So yes, talk about the treatment and what's happened, but also make time where you dedicate it to not speaking about it, where you can just go out and be you and be you as a couple and not focused and defined by IVF. So use that time afterwards to spend time with your partner doing something nice. Ask questions. So getting answers to our questions can make us feel fully informed and able to make decisions on the next steps. So whether that's moving on to another round of IVF, whether that's taking time out, or whether that's looking at other routes to parenthood. So start thinking about the questions that you've got. Planning some nice things to do with your close circle. So most people, you know, have a group of friends or family that make them feel good, that they know will support them. So plan things in to do with them. So that could be your partner, your family. It will give you something to look forward to, something nice. So plan in nice things to do together, you know, you'll look forward to, but with people that will help support you and make you feel good. Don't feel that you have to do things that will make you feel uncomfortable or where you can't be yourself or relax. This is about planning in things that make you feel good with the people that you love. Attend support group meetings. So I run groups and I see the difference that it makes by people coming along and having their feelings validated. So when people come along and say, this is how I felt about it, and others say, I felt exactly the same, people feel much better, as though they're not going mad, that it's normal to feel like that, and you bond through that. So attend support group meetings if there's any locally. If not, there are lots of online groups. I'll share the details of my online group at the end of the presentation, so you're more than welcome to join that. It's a free group. But the bonus of support groups is everybody fully understands, so nobody will judge you by what you say. Everybody understands, and the ones that I run, everybody's amazingly supportive of one another, even though they're still going through it. So support groups are a brilliant way of getting support, especially during this time. So I wanted to move on to the questions to ask yourself after a failed cycle. So things you could start to think about, because I know I certainly felt if I had a plan, then I felt happier that I had a plan. And something, the next steps, I just felt like I needed something to keep me going, a plan to keep me going of what we'd do next, so that I could focus on that and I wasn't just focusing on the fact that it hadn't worked for us. So firstly, have a think about what you're pleased about that you did this round. So if you think about what helped you feel better whilst you were going through it, either physically or emotionally, so that you can replicate those good things and make a list of the things that you feel went well. So that could be things like you were eating healthily. There's a lot of people around that can support you with that. So dietitians, there's a lot of information out there, nutritionists who can help with that. And it might just be that you were eating healthy fruit and veg a lot, and you felt like you did really well with that and you want to replicate it. Getting extra rest. I think we're all guilty of not getting enough rest, but it is really good for you. And if you know that you slept better, you were trying to get more rest whilst going through it, replicate that. It could be add-on treatments. I will say on that, the research is very limited on what the HFEA and various bodies agree is beneficial and worth paying for. So do your research on that. But it might be that something you had done you felt worked well, and your consultant can help you with that as well. Things like counselling or coaching, if you went to things like that and you felt that they were beneficial for you and they helped you with coping mechanisms and helped you talk through some of the things you're feeling, then book those in again. As I mentioned, going to a support group, they're there to support you and they will keep you going through those treatments. Things like acupuncture and other holistic therapists. Again, with acupuncture, there is some research on that in relation to aiding fertility, but also things like acupuncture help is reported to help people have better night's sleep, regulate periods, help with some of the side effects of periods, some of the more uncomfortable side effects of that. So you might find that acupuncture really helped you relax whilst you were going through it. So that's something you want to do again this time, or things like reflexology. Time off work. First time around with my cycle, I didn't take much time off work, but I felt that was something I could do better next time. So I did that next time. But it's all about making a list of the things that you felt helped you, whether that's helping you cope or getting you in the best physical state for going through IVF, so that you can do those again this time. Secondly, what will help me recover from the failed cycle? So look at how you've previously recovered from things like a loss or an upset. It could be, if you've had a bereavement in the family, or a previous breakup or loss of a job, something where you've been upset. What things help you cope with that? It could be planning in times with certain friends who are very good at cheering you up or helping you move forward with things. It could be taking time out to yourself and recharging your batteries, and meditating, going on things like spa days, or just time out reading, going for walks, things like that help you cope with it. It could be breathing techniques, things that help you whilst you've been going through a loss, to come to terms with it, and move forward from it. It could be seeing a counsellor. If you found that previously that really helped you, then look into that again. That could be something that helps support you through it and going forward. It could be something like journaling, talking about your feelings within the journal. It's something you can keep to yourself and you don't have to share. And if you find that that's a good way of getting your feelings out in a safe way, then use that. Again, going to a support group and talking to people who fully get it could be a way of helping you cope. And just as I said, remember, it's okay to grieve and take time to yourself and do what you need to get through this. So a lot of people I speak to feel a lot of pressure that they have to be straight back to work. They have to be looking as though they're not bothered about it. They have to go to a baby shower they've been invited to, or a family party, when they just don't feel like it. And it's okay to say no to those things. I think it's really important that you understand it's all right to prioritize your emotional health, and protect yourself from things that will cause you upset. So you are grieving, you are going through a loss, and it's okay to take time out and do what you need to do to get through it. So some people might get through it by going to the gym and working their way through it that way. Some people might find that they need to just take time out to themselves, isolate themselves a bit from the world, and just take that time out to themselves. And that's fine. It's working out what works for you. And as I say, use your support network and things that work for you. So support groups are great for providing advice, comfort and support from others who understand how you feel. Or if you've got a friend who's also been through it, who will understand when you talk through them, because they'll be able to give you relevant advice and won't misjudge what they say. So people who haven't been through it maybe don't fully understand the depth of emotions that this can bring on. So use your support network, whoever they are, and in whatever way is best for you. So a big thing I would say, in the third question, what can we learn from this failed cycle? So this is probably the main one would be with your medical professionals, because once you know what can we learn from this failed cycle, you can think, based on this information, what can we do differently next time to increase our chances of success. So what I would say is have a real think before you go to your follow-up appointment about all the questions you've got, and write them down, because I know I used to go into appointments and I'd have a load of questions in my head, but I'd be so emotional that I'd then forget. And I'd come out and not asked any of them, or I'd have asked questions but not written down the answers, and then I'd forgotten the answers to them. So I'd say take a notebook, write down everything that you want to ask. And that could be, what could we do differently? What happened this time? Why did we not get as many fertilizers as we maybe thought? Or if you had lots of follicles but not many eggs, was there a reason for that? What would they recommend doing next time? So write down all the different things that you can think of, about what happened and what can you learn. So it's not, It's more about what can we do differently next time to increase our chance of success. And already they'll be thinking about things like different medications, looking at dosages, different add-ons. It could be that if maybe they've suggested you may need a donor next time, that they may suggest something like that. So it's asking all of these questions that are relevant to your personal situation, and talk them through with your consultant, who will be able to advise based on your own specific situation. So if you know that you've got all the questions and to be able to come out fully armed with all the information to be able to make decisions, that's what the most important thing is. You want to come out of the meeting feeling that you understand what's happened and the next steps. But just remember, this isn't about placing blame on yourself or the clinic. So it's not saying, what have I done wrong? That's why I've phrased it more in terms of what can we learn from this cycle, because I don't want you blaming yourself and thinking, well, I did this much exercise, or should I have rested or taken more time off work, because there's nothing you could have done that would have made any difference. So I don't want you blaming yourself. And also the clinic, they care about helping you. It's about asking them what can be done, what can we learn, what can we do differently next time, looking for positive changes that you could make to feel like you stand a chance of changing the outcome, and increase your chances, because then emotionally as well, you can tell yourself that yes, you'd had a failed cycle last time, but you've made changes this time, so there is a chance of it having a different outcome if you're struggling to think that it could work. Because I did feel very much like that after my failed cycle, that I struggled to believe that it would work for us for the next time, because I'd only had experience of it not working. So if you're doing something different, you can remind yourself that you're making all these changes, you're doing everything good that you thought you did last time, and you're making changes this way. So you can tell yourself that there's a higher chance of a different outcome just because you're doing something differently. Okay, and the next question I'd say is have a think about, do we need to take a break from treatment? I was very much of the mindset that I wanted to just keep going, because I felt we'd spent so long trying that I just wanted to get going with the next cycle. But I didn't take into account my emotional health with doing that actually would it have been better for me to take a break. It can be very tempting to get straight back into it with the next cycle because it feels like every month counts. But it is important to allow yourself time to recover. So the clinics will obviously want your body to be in a position to start treatment again, but they do say you need to be emotionally ready as well to get started. So you want to make sure that you're fully prepared emotionally and physically for making decisions going forward. So it's a discussion to have with your partner, talk about whether you could take a break. And I know for some people it maybe isn't an option. If you're concerned about decreasing fertility with age and things like that, then that may not always be an option. And it may be that it's just making the most of the time in between cycles to recharge your batteries and get yourself ready to move forward. But it's a serious consideration for people as well, just to make sure. So as a couple, what do you think you need to do to be fully prepared for the next cycle? So that's physically and emotionally as well. Do you want to have another cycle? Is that your next steps? Do you feel that it's right for you in terms of the emotional impact, the considering costs? Because unfortunately, certainly in the UK, with reducing NHS funding, there is a cost associated to cycles of IVF, so it has to be a consideration in it. Age, things like that, you have to do what's right for you as a couple, and there are a lot of conversations to be had there. And also, depending on the stage of journey you're at, do you want to look at other routes to parenthood? Is donor a consideration? Would you look at surrogacy? Is adoption something that you are interested in, that you feel would work for you if you didn't have another cycle? So there's a lot of questions there to think about. Some of you, if you maybe had one failed cycle, you're not quite at the point of thinking some of the other routes to parenthood. Maybe if you've had a few failed cycles, you might be considering them a bit more. It's down to each individual, but it's just to have a think about all those different options within that. So as I mentioned before, I do have a Facebook support group that's completely free. It's called TTC Support UK. It's not just people from the UK that are in it, so everybody's more than welcome to join it. What I try and do in the support group is give it a positive feel, so that it gives people, I share positive advice and tips to help people feel more positive, to feel stronger and happier as they're going through treatment. So it's there to support one another. And as I say, there's a lot of amazing people in it already who are supporting one another and answering questions. But also I do try to share advice and support as well for people while they're going through it, just to help you move forward. So it's not just a case of talking about how you feel. There are things in there to help you create plans, to help you move forward. And I'm always responding to things. So I'm always there to reply if you need anything. If you want to join and you just want to see what people are writing, that's fine. If you want to join and want me to post anything anonymously, if you have a specific question, I do really feel like the support group is a great resource for people who are going through treatment, and you can use it as works for you. So please feel free to join that. We can share the details again if you need to. And then just lastly, please reach out to me as well. I always get back to people. So if you don't want to join the group, but you want some support or just to ask a question, to get my advice on, I'm more than happy to get back to you. So you can reach me on Sarah at sarahbanks.coach. So please feel free. I set up the groups because I don't want anybody to be alone going through treatment and whilst trying to get pregnant. So I want to make sure that there's another way of people getting that support. And I will just get back to you if you have a question or would just like a little bit of support or just a virtual hug. So thank you very much for your time. I hope that's been helpful. And if you have any questions, please do ask.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your presentation, for so many good tips for all of us, for sure. And of course, now it is time for our Q&A session. We already have some questions here. So please feel free to just type in all of your questions in the chat section, and we will be happy to answer them. So let me start with the very first question. You already have mentioned your Facebook group support. So it was actually quite similar, but perhaps you can advise us some more. How can I find out more about support group meetings?
Okay, so I do local support group meetings, like the face-to-face meetings. So if you are local to West Yorkshire, then I do have a meeting which I can give you the details of. I have a local Facebook group, but I can send you the meetings of that and the details of that and the meetings. The Fertility Network have a list of all the meetings that happen, and they also share it on their Facebook page. So in the UK, certainly, I'm not sure outside of the UK, and it might be that your clinic has a specific group. So it's worth, if you are with a clinic, checking with them about their support groups. But you can definitely, if you are in the UK, have a look at the Fertility Network's website and their support group page, because it lists all the support groups that happen and the meetings that happen. So they will all be on there. And as I say, they share them on their Facebook page as they're coming up. So like probably the week before, I think they share that it's happening.
And thank you for sharing this information and for your question. And let me go to the next question that we already have. I already had 12 IVF cycles. The most difficult for me is the time between the cycles. In this time, I don't have any other goal in my life. What can I do with it?
It's really hard, and I'm really sorry. I know it must be really difficult having the 12 cycles, and definitely in between, it's hard if you've had a failed cycle and you feel the hope starting to build for the next one. What I would say is take some time out. If you're in a couple, take time out with your partner. Maybe have a think about some of the things as a joint goal that you have together. If there's anything else you've done, I know it's really difficult. I know for a lot of us, this is what we've always dreamed of, and it's very hard to imagine anything else in your life. And it's not that you have to stop that being your goal, but maybe have a think about other things that you'd like to do with the hope that it would still work, but at least you can be doing things. Because I felt very much like my life was a bit stuck in a rut, and my life was on hold. So the other things I wanted to do, I wasn't doing. So by thinking about those things that I wanted to do, it didn't mean I didn't want to be a mum. It just meant there's some other things that I wanted to do, and they didn't have to be really big. They can be small things. It could be that you want to have a big holiday somewhere. I know current situation isn't helping with things like that either. It could be that you want to swap jobs. It could be that you want to learn a new hobby. Have a think about all the different things. Make a list of the things that you'd love to be. And as I say, being a mum is still on that list, but it could be that you want to be other things as well, so a great wife, or a scientist, or another occupation. All the things you'd like to have. So that could be material possessions. It could be that you'd like to have a certain car, a certain house by a certain time, a certain job, a certain pair of shoes. It doesn't have to be anything big. And all the things that you'd want to do. So all the things you want to be, all the things you want to have, and all the things you want to do. So that could be you want to go on this holiday, you want to learn how to ski, you want to, I'm trying to think of things off the top of my head. But as I say, they don't have to be big things, but at least it gives you a focus in the meantime, in between cycles, of the things you want to do. And it starts you building a life that you're happy with and you enjoy. I really, really hope that it works for you at some point. But if it doesn't, at least you're building a life that is good for you and that you're happy with as well, and things that make you smile. I hope that helps. But if you're still struggling or you want to ask any more things, please message me. Please do send me an email. I'll have another think about other things I can suggest for you as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for your question, and fingers crossed you will get through it, and all will be okay in the end. And thank you, Sarah, for all the tips. There are so many things we can do in the meantime, however difficult it is, but we need to definitely focus on that, right? All right, thank you. And now let me have another question for you here. As follow-on option for egg donor, what would you recommend as next steps, as we are told limited Asian donor in the UK?
I'd maybe speak to, it depends on which clinic you're with. I know certain clinics have their own egg banks. I know others use egg banks abroad. It may be if there is limited donors in the UK, having to think about how you'd feel about a donor from elsewhere, from outside of the UK, because certainly in more Asian countries, they will have bigger donor banks. So have a think about that. And it may be, I think if you're looking at egg donors anyway, you will probably be asked to speak to a counsellor who may be able to help you with some of those decisions as well, about how you'd feel about using a donor outside of the UK. But yeah, I check whether it's just, firstly, whether your clinic has a limited donors. If so, whether there's other clinics in the UK that have a bigger donor bank in different areas, or different clinics that have a bigger donor bank. Or as I say, it might be that you maybe look abroad. So it could be that you could still have treatment through a UK clinic that uses a donor bank outside of the UK, or whether you then look to have treatment outside of the UK as well, where they had their own donor banks. Because if it is limited, you may have a limited choice on it, and may have to look slightly further afield. But as I say, hopefully, if you are looking at possibly having a donor, they have referred you to a counsellor who can help you make some of those decisions as well. Because if you're not sure on using a donor outside of the UK, they may be able to help you work through that and give you some more options as well. And maybe look at the Donor Conception Network and see if they have any more information on it, or where there's higher numbers of Asian donors, or what they would recommend doing as well. They'd probably be the best people to speak to for advice as well on that. So hopefully they'd be able to help you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And as Sarah already mentioned, if you would like to get in touch with Donor Conception Network, we are also here to help you out with it. So you can drop us an email, and we'll be happy to forward this to them. And I'm sure they will be able to help you out as well. Okay. So thanks again for the question and your help, Sarah. And now let me have a look. We are waiting for another question, so just give me a second. Yes, it's up here right now. I've had one failed cycle of donor egg IVF in Spain, but have a guarantee plan, so I have another 2 attempts. Do you support groups support donor egg IVF as well?
Yeah, and the online groups definitely. I don't restrict it to anybody. The only thing I do say is that if you could answer the questions when you join, so that I keep it a safe group. Just because we have had people join as spam, but other than that, I don't limit it. There's definitely people who have used donors, who are considering using donors. There's people who've travelled abroad for treatment as well. So no, definitely. I think in terms of the more in-depth emotional support, speaking to a counsellor, as I mentioned before, it is if you are using a donor, they do ask that you speak to a counsellor about that as well, just to work through some of those emotions. So I think it's definitely worth having that as well. But no, in terms of being able to speak to other people who have used donors, then definitely, yeah, more than welcome to join. And as I say, if anybody wanted me to post an anonymous post on my group, if you didn't want to post yourself, then I can post an anonymous post and people will reply to that, and you can see their answers and connect with them if you felt you were comfortable doing that.
And thank you again for explaining this to us and letting us know. And you can see that. Sorry, just let me show you. Thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate.
you're welcome.
Thank you for that as well. Okay, I'm sure that was helpful. And there is another question, so it's a bit different one. How you can cope after finding out that you can only go for surrogacy now, and it is simply too expensive.
Oh, it's really hard if you know that is your only option, and it's very sad that price has to come into it. That sort of for some of us that we don't have a choice in that, and other people it's so easy, and it always sort of upsets me that it does come down to that for people. Unfortunately, you have to pay for it basically. I would say, again, I would speak to a fertility counsellor to work through some of those things, and maybe speak to your consultant. I don't know the history to know what options you've been through already, but have a speak about the different options, whether it's something that you could look in different countries for, whether there's a smaller cost in other countries, whether in some countries, whether there's no charge for it, or whether the cost is just the IVF cycle for the surrogate, preparing them. So maybe I'm not sure who would be the best person to advise to be able to find out that information. Possibly the Fertility Network. I'm not sure if there's any surrogacy support networks that might be able to advise you. I'm not sure what country you're in. Whether I'd say look at different countries, whether there's different pricing options in different countries that you could go to, because everybody has different regulations, and it might be that if you could travel abroad to a different country, you've obviously got the cost associated with that, but it might end up lower overall. But I'd speak to a fertility counsellor as well to help you with some of those emotions in coping with that as well, if you've been advised that that's your best option of conceiving. And as I say, if you want to message me separately, please do, and I'll have a think and have a research if there's anybody else that it would be worth speaking to. But I know it's it's really hard to know that your only option is, sort of so expensive as well. I know that's really difficult. I can see you've put a comment about the hesitating between surrogacy and adoption. I think it's sort of working through the different options, and that would be where somebody like a fertility counsellor would really come in to speak about those different options, how you feel emotionally about it, and things like that. So you can start to weigh up and work out in your head which is the best route for you. Sort of talking through, I guess, the pros and the cons of both options to work out which suits you better and which would be the best route for you to have a family. Because at the end of the day, through any of these options, you're still getting a family. And it's finding out which way suits you best. So yeah, I think speaking to a fertility counsellor would help with that. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that would be able to advise you on that. Maybe just doing lots of research on both, really looking into it, speaking to people in support groups for those, so you can try and get some real life experiences from people as to which option might suit you best. I hope that helps, and good luck.
Thank you so much again for that question and your assistance. This is definitely a tough time, but we definitely hope that you can find some help and get some answers and also on best advice. Okay. All right. Now let me go to the next question. How can I cope being diagnosed with POF? I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure. Is that premature ovarian
Failure?
failure?
Perhaps if you could just let us know exactly what you mean by that, so we know for sure.
Yeah.
And we will be happy to answer that.
Yeah, if it is that, I think again, speaking to other people who have been through that. So there's somebody called Defining Mum. She's her handle on Instagram is Defining Mum, and she. Oh yeah, I've seen you said yes. She's been through that. So she was diagnosed as going through the early menopause and having premature ovarian failure, in her 20s. So she's now been through egg donation abroad. I think it was might have been Czech Republic, that she had egg donation. So she talks a lot about sort of how she coped with that. So what I would say is, again, I keep mentioning it, but the fertility counsellors are great. They're fully specialised in dealing with some of the emotions that go with that. But also looking for real life people and support groups that are run by them. So Becky runs or has an Instagram page called Defining Mum, and she does talk a lot about that. So she links with other people who talk about that and the emotions that came up with that. As I say, I'm not sure kind of at what point everybody's at and their history, whether it's at a point where where your best option is to go with a donor, or whether they're willing to try naturally with your own eggs first. But I'd just say find out as much information as you can, because there are still options, and it's just thinking about the options that are available to you. So considering donor, speaking to a counsellor about how you feel about that, but looking for real life examples of how people have made the decisions, but then also how they're living with those decisions now they've got donor conceived children. Becky, who runs Defining Mum, talks a lot about her donor conceived children and the bond that she has with them. So it's thinking about the different things like that. So I'd say do some research and follow the people who've been through that as well, because then you can get real life examples of how they coped with it. Speak to a fertility counsellor, and just take care of yourself. I'd say in all of these things, I think it's really important to make sure you're protecting yourself emotionally. So do things that help you you relax and that make you feel good. Don't forget to look after yourself while you're going through it. I hope that helps. If you want to email me, and I can send you the details for Becky's page, or you can look on Defining Mum. But with any of these questions, please message me if you'd like more information, and I can have more of a think about it for you.
Perfect. Thank you again for that advice. And again, let me remind everyone that if you would like to get in touch with Sarah, of course, you can email her. Or if you prefer, you can also send an email to us. We are happy to forward all your questions to Sarah, and I am definitely sure she'll get back to you and will help you out. Okay. And we do have another question here. I would like to try an adoption, but my husband doesn't want it. Should I try to convince him?
It's hard. It has to be a joint decision. I'd say for the sake of your relationship as well, you both need to be fully engaged in it and have made that decision together, because it's, from what I believe, it's not an easy process to go through the adoption process. So you would need to be fully engaged in that. So I think it'd be worth sort of trying to work out what it is why he doesn't want to. So what the reasons are that he's reluctant to look into it. Would he be willing to look into it? To at least do more research on it and find out more information. Just so that he's not ruling it out straight away. Would he be willing to look into the different options, what it would mean, how it would affect you, what the process involves? Maybe speaking to other people or hearing stories from people who've adopted, how they found the process, how they're finding it now living with an adopted child. It's very difficult if one of you wants one thing and one doesn't. So I'd say it's just about the communication, asking the question about what it is. The reason he might not want to try it might be something that's quite easy to answer, or it might be a really deep-seated reason why he doesn't want to try it, that you could maybe work through and unpick. But at least if he's willing to start looking into the option to then be able to make a decision, you'll both feel like you've made the effort to look into it and consider it as an option. So I'd say yes, encourage him to at least hear more about it so that you can rule it in or out, and you can phrase it like that you just would like more information so that you can make a decision. And will he support you in you researching it? And you might find that he's more open to it once he knows more. My husband, when we were going through it, I had kind of said before he wouldn't want to adopt. And I know somebody that's a foster parent, and we were somewhere and she had one of the children with her that she fosters, and after he'd seen this child and how actually it was just, he was a little boy who just needed somebody to love him, it changed his mind and his view on why you would adopt. I think he probably had ruled out adoption to start with without really thinking about it. So when he actually realised that actually there's children there who do need loving parents and do need that support, it changed his mind a bit. So it might just be that he doesn't know enough about it, and ask him if he will support you in researching it. So hopefully that helps.
And thank you again. Okay, thank you so much for this. And Sarah, at this point, let me see. We don't have any questions, but if you could perhaps tell us, you are available on Facebook. You are having that TTC Support UK group, right?
Yeah.
Any other options you offer where we can seek for advice?
Well, in terms of getting in touch just for advice, I'm on Instagram under IVF Positivity Planner, which is the book, the coaching journal I've written. So you can find me on IVF Positivity Planner. So if you're on Instagram and want to message me on there, that's where I share support as well. So I post regularly on there with advice and support, and you can always message me on Instagram. You can email me. You can join the Facebook group. I do offer coaching services. So if anybody wants to coach, and you can find me. You can find also I have a website that has lots of blogs on it as well. So it's www.sarahbanks.coach.
Okay, perfect.
So we can share all the details if you'd like them, but I have a blog section on there, so there's lots of different blogs. I've posted one today just on coping through the uncertain time we're going through at the minute with coronavirus. So there's lots of blogs on there that might be helpful as well. So you can get in touch with me just to message if you want any support. You can join the support group. You can read the blogs. You can follow me on Instagram.
Okay, fantastic. So in such case, you offer like sometimes online coaching as well. It's possible, yes? I mean,
Yeah.
if someone wanted to talk to you via Skype, let's say, or anything like that, it's possible as well.
Yeah, you
Perfect.
can, and if you want more information, you can just email me about that
Sure.
as well. So yeah, there's lots of ways of supporting, sort of more in depth through the coaching or through my free groups and through emailing me. And as I say, I have a coaching book that I've launched called IVF Positivity Planner, and you can find information about that on my website and on Instagram as well, if you felt that would support you as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Just making sure we have ways to connect with you. So there are plenty. So if you feel that you need that support, this is a person to go to. Okay. I do see someone is typing, so let's give it a minute and then see if we have another question, just to make sure. We will be slowly finishing. So just if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat section so we can make sure that Sarah will. It is actually a shout out, okay, from Lisa here. So I would love for you to see it. Thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. Thank you for the comments. We are happy to hear from you.
Thank
And
you, and you're welcome. I hope it has been helpful for you.
yeah, we have more of that coming. Thank you. So thanks for those comments. We are always happy to help you as well. I really hope that it was informative for you. I believe it was. So I guess we will be slowly finishing. Sarah, thank you so much for your time here with us,
Okay.
especially that, outside is definitely crazy nowadays, but
Yes.
still making it here and focusing on that topic rather than other topic, which is now everywhere on the news.
Yeah. And as
And
I say, if you are struggling currently, as I know a lot of people in my support groups are with what's going on and the uncertainty around coronavirus, I have posted a blog on my website that may be helpful, just with some advice, because I know it's a bit of a worrying and uncertain time for all of us at the minute. So stay safe as well, everybody.
perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. And one more thing, I would like to say big thanks for your questions, because we wouldn't be here without you. So, and also sharing your stories. Okay. I am sure it is never easy to actually share such cases, your cases, it's all about your actual life as well. Okay. All right, so I guess we will be finishing. There's one more thing I would like to remind you about. Okay, so remember, tomorrow this webinar, as well as the others, will be available on our website. But also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that you will be updated about the upcoming events, and also our you can find all kinds of content on our Instagram, but also Facebook, as well as you can definitely join TTC Support UK.
Yeah.
This is a Facebook group, free, you can simply share your stories, and you can seek for advice from Sarah. And one more thing, I guess, one more last thing for today. Remember that we will have another webinar on Tuesday, so feel free to register today already. It will be a webinar with our clinic in which is Juana Crespo clinic in Spain, and Dr. Nadia will answer your questions, of course, as well. One more thing, big thank you, Sarah. And
You're welcome.
any last words you would like to add?
Just please reach out for support. I know it's really tough. It's tough generally, and then the current situation isn't helping, but please do reach out for support. I don't like to think of anybody struggling on their own. So, as I said, I always reply to messages. So if you just want to message me to just ask a question, or just say you've got a bit of support, please do. It's there for
Perfect.
I'm happy to answer.
Exactly. So, if you need anything at all, we are here to support you, to help you out. So reach out. We should talk, and I'm sure it will be a bit easier, and perhaps help you, even if a little. Okay. Definitely stay safe, and I guess we will see each other very, very soon. Take care and have a good night. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
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 Bye.